the
quel est le
issue is of knowing
quantum
what
qui est
is the
autorisé
quantum
depuis la semaine
authorized
dernière
as of
aux
last
assurances
week
vie
for
chinoises
Chinese life insurance
pour investir dans
to
l'alternative
invest
mondialement.
in global
L'alternative, les hedge
hedge
funds et
funds
le private equity.
and
Et
private
la
equity.
réponse est
And the
le
reply
quantum
is
200
that the
milliards.
quantum is
On
200
est dans
billion.
l'extrême inverse.
In
Et
other
je
words,
voudrais juste que
exactly
ceci
the opposite of what everyone
émerge un
believed.
tout petit
And
peu
this
dans la
needs
conversation.
to be
Parce que
taken into account
le
in the
découplage,
discussion.
c'est pas simplement
Because
de
the
dire on fait une
decoupling
croissance
is not
économique
simply
très forte.
you have very strong economic growth,
4,7%, 8%, trop fort.
4.7%, 4.8%, which is in fact too
Cette
strong.
année, à raison du fait que
And
les BRICS
this year,
font une croissance de
the
l'ordre
BRICS
de
have a growth
7,5%
rate of
tous
some
ensemble.
7.5% jointly.
Et que le monde développé,
That the
derrière les
developed
émergents,
world,
les Next
by
11,
emergence,
comme
the
on dit à
next
la banque
11,
Goldman Sachs,
as Goldman Sachs calls
font une
them,
croissance très très proche.
have a very
des
similar growth of the
Et que l'Afrique est
emerging
donnée pour faire du
markets, and
6%,
that
et que
Africa is
l'Amérique
given for
latine est
6%,
donnée
Latin
pour faire du
America
5%, et que le Brésil est donné
5%,
pour faire
Brazil
plus de 7%.
over 7%.
Mais la question n'est pas seulement celle-là.
But that's not the only issue. The decoupling, it's not only the decoupling
brut en volume.
of the
D'abord, c'est le découplage du
GNP, but
produit
the
brut
decoupling of
en
the
volume,
gross product in
traduit en
volume,
valeur
expressed
post-inflation,
in
traduit au taux de
post-inflationary
change,
values with the exchange
avec
rate,
ce qui a été dit ce matin
and with
sur
what was said this
l'appréciation des
morning
monnaies
on an
des
appreciation
pays
of
émergents et
currencies
des
of
pays en développement,
emerging
qui est
countries,
extrêmement forte, across the board.
which is extremely
C'est-à-dire
strong
que le
across the
découplage,
board. In
ça
other
n'est
words,
pas
a decoupling
fait en
is
volume
not
5 fois en Afrique la
that
croissance.
in volume have 5
France,
times
quatre fois
African
l'ensemble de la
growth,
France.
5 times what is
C'est
done in
qu'on
France,
fait dans le monde
but
émergent
that in the emerging
en
world,
valeur au taux de change
in value at
10
the
fois
cost exchange
la
rate,
croissance de l'euro.
10 times
Donc le
Euroland
découplage
growth. So
en croissance,
decoupling
en
in
volume, en
growth
valeur,
terms, in
au taux de
value,
change,
at
il n'a rien à
the
voir.
set exchange rate,
Et donc on a des problèmes
becomes
de gouvernance
meaningless. So there are
monétaire
issues of
qui
monetary
n'ont
and
pas l'air
financial
d'obséder.
governance
Et ça a quand même été dit
with
par le
don't
président
seem to be of
Kuroda.
undue concern.
Et même
said
si
by,
le président Trichet
Mr.
a
Kuroda,
dit
and
si,
even
si,
President
dans la
Trichet
gouvernance
said,
de
well, yes, in the Basel
on est
governance,
20 et on est même 27,
20 or even
enfin, ce qui a été quand même dit par le
27,
président Kuroda, c'est grosso modo à Bâle, c'est pas nos
and what Mr.
préoccupations
Kuroda
qui
said
passent.
that in Basel, it's not our
Tout à
concerns that
l'heure,
are
j'ai posé la
expressed.
question
Earlier,
de
I
tous ces
raised the
pays
question
qui
of
émettent
all
de
these
l'euro sans le
countries that
savoir,
are
enfin, en
issuing
sachant,
euros
mais c'est l'Europe qui ne le sait
knowingly,
pas.
but Europe doesn't know it.
Zone monétaire
This
fantôme.
monetary zone,
Cette zone,
a
vous savez, un jour, quand
phantom
j'étais jeune,
market. One day, years ago when I was young,
je suis allé pour les Nations Unies avec
The-
quelques complices de notre université commune avec Jacques à Haïti.
UN
mission
sent
pour
us
le
to
climat.
Haiti working for
Et une chose qui me
UNDP.
frappait à
And one
Port-au-Prince, c'est
thing
qu'à
struck me in
Port-au-Prince,
Port-au-Prince. In
il y a
Port-au-Prince,
quelques grands phares de la
it is
francophonie. Il y a
felt that
Paris,
there are some headlights in
Bruxelles, il y a Montréal,
French speaking.
il y
There's
a
Paris,
Port-au-Prince.
Brussels,
en fait, il n'y a qu'à Port-au-Prince. je
and
pense.
Port-au-Prince. But it's only in Port-au-prince that it's
Et
thought
moi, ce qui me
that
frappe,
way.
c'est que
And what
et qu'en
strikes
Europe,
me
on
is that it's only in
s'aperçoit
Europe
que
that one doesn't
une gigantesque zone
realize
euro,
that a
une
gigantic
croissance très
eurozone with
à
very
quelques
strong growth
kilomètres là par le détroit de
and a few
Gibraltar,
kilometers
qui ne
away,
demande qu'à
just the other side
participer à
of
la croissance.
Gibraltar,
Mais enfin, encore faudrait-il
ready to take part in the growth.
qu'on s'intéresse à ce qu'elle existe. Et de façon plus générale, parce que ce qui est vrai de
And
l'Afrique
more
et du
generally,
reste
what
du
is
monde
true of
émergent,
Africa is
nous
the rest
avons
of the
des
emerging
problèmes de
markets. We
gouvernance
have
monétaire et
monetary and
financière
financial governance
inverse.
issues, which are the opposite.
Inverse. Le problème que nous avons
The
immédiatement,
problem that
c'est
we have
celui de l'appréciation de notre
right
monnaie dans
now
une
is the
volatilité
appreciation of a
excessive,
currency
parce
with
que nous
excessive
devons remettre de la
volatility
monnaie
because we need to
nationale
have
contre des
national
entrées
currency
massives de
against
capitaux
massive
artificiels qui
injection
ne
of
sont créés que par les
currencies
bateaux
which
d'affaires.
are simply
avons des
generated
problèmes
through interest rates.
de surchauffe,
We
nous
have
avons des
issues of
problèmes de
overheating,
régulation,
issues of
de modération
regulation,
de nos intermédiaires
of
financiers.
moderation of our
Nous
financial
avons des problèmes
intermediaries. We have
d'activation de nos
issues of
ressources
activation of our
dans les banques centrales. Nous n'avons pas de
resources in
doctrine
central
là-dessus.
banks. There's no
Nous avons le
doctrine
contraire des
here.
problèmes des banques
It's the
centrales
opposite of
des
these
pays
issues of central banks
avancés.
in advanced
Excusez-moi, je
countries.
parle moins là,
I'm sorry, I'm
en
speaking
responsable private equity que
not so much as a
citoyen
private equity
africain,
manager, but as an
mais-
African citizen.
et d'un pays émergent. Mais franchement, c'est quelque chose que nous
But
ressentons dans
quite
toutes
frankly,
les
it's something which
entreprises
is
qui, dans
felt
notre
in all
portefeuille, agissent
companies
sur
that
ces marchés.
have
Nous avons
portfolios
des
acting in
problèmes
these markets. We
inverses.
have the opposite
Nous avons
issues in the rest of
500
the world.
milliards de réserves
500
de change
billion
dans
of
centrales
exchange
africaines,
reserves
ça
in
fait
African central
50% du
banks,
PIB.
50%
Nous n'avons pas de
of
doctrine
the
sur leur
and
activation.
the GDP.
Nous avons autant de réserves
And
qu'il y en a dans la
as
banque
much reserves as
centrale
there are in the
russe. Et
Central
nous avons
Bank of
près de
Russia
quart
and
des
about
réserves de change
25%
de
of
la
exchange
banque centrale
reserves
chinoise.
of the Chinese Central
Mais
Bank.
l'excédent de paiement courant
But the
du Maghreb
balance of payments of the Maghreb countries is 10 times the situation of the European Union. You must remember that the problems are not the same as developed countries. A beautiful book has just come out on the theme of de-Westernization of the world.
The
world is living without the West, but the West hasn't realized it. And issues of governance in the world are issues of governance of very strong growth, unusually high growth, issues of Chinese real estate and all the Chinese components of the greater China, the asset bubble in companies, the arable land bubble, other assets, oil and mining concessions. These are the problems of the world. How can you moderate the overheating? Not how do you inject cash non-traditionally into the economy to avoid a double dip. You have to think of these two approaches at once. Thus, what I'm trying to say is that companies living this on a day-to-day basis, every day, financial analysts say that on financial markets, companies are always doing a bit better than the consensus. Why? Because companies live in a world that believes that monetary governance is to artificially support the economic situation. They live in a world where all the monetary structure is trying to cool down activities, and that is where they have their growth in their turnover and in their balance sheets. Obviously, they're participating more and more in this world, and that is where the consumers are. So we're a private equity fund. Who is going to finance us? Not the American pension funds. They're going to continue, but they're not really going to grow. It won't be the American universities that have overspent in the financial crisis. It will be the sovereign funds in Asia, in Latin America, and I hesitate to say it, from Africa. Even countries with a deficit payment in India have their sovereign funds, because basically they're able to have surplus within a deficit of payment through the contribution of Indians living abroad. It is the family offices, the high wealth individuals. But where are they? Have you looked at the list of the Forbes billionaire list in the poor world? And this was alluded to by Kemal. And you have to live with this situation, which is unstable, that rich people are in the poor world. And you have to live with the concept that we as private equity fund number one in continental Europe are going to be funded by the saving of the poor world, the caricature of the saving of the Chinese farmer or the Chad farmer, because they have 40% saving rates that are funding the consumer in the wealthy world is a bit of a caricature, but true. And that is what will be feeding this fund, like other funds. And as with this, we're going to generate value in European companies. So what I did want to say, Mr. Moderator, is to move the spotlight, saying there's an additional complexity that Kemal alluded to, but think of a world which is a paradox, where you have the governance of reactivation, of assistance to the economy, of trying to avoid the past excesses of banking systems, of looking at non-banks such as ourselves, because we're generating a systemic anxiety, because if we have 5.5 times the debt leverage, that can give rise to some concern. I don't know if the private equity or hedge funds have anything to do with the crisis. And then you have the rest of the world where the leverage increases, and we have to manage the opposite. And it's not very easy to manage this double governance. And it's on this issue of double governance that I wanted to draw your attention.